Welcome to the Freedom Blueprint Show, a podcast about creating the lifestyle you want through your small business. Drawing on their experiences starting and running multi-million-dollar small businesses, three friends, Jon, Ryan, and Gabe, discuss how to have a business, but more importantly, a lifestyle you love.
All right. Hello, everybody. I am Jon Carcone. I'm here with Gabe Garcia. We are going to talk about having joy along the journey and any other relevant shit that relates to that kind of pops into our head as we're talking.
Sounds like a fun topic.
All right, let's do this. So, Gabe, what comes to mind first for you when you think about that?
Yeah, a few things. I think one is, for me, the most important thing, because that's easy to do, is honestly eliminating the shit that I hate doing. It's, really, I think that's probably the most essential part. It's interesting because I was just having a conversation about this with one of my partners in our mastermind. And we were talking about how, there's a few people in the business that have very, very small teams. And the owners are very hands-on in their business, but they make a lot of money. A lot of money. But the interesting part is that they freaking love what they do. Like, it's a different picture, right? Like, even though they're hands-on in their business and they're managing construction and they're going to appointments and actually negotiating deals and buying them with the seller, like, they love that stuff. Like, that stuff gives them energy and lights them up. Whereas, like, for me, that wouldn't do that. So I'm like, man, even though that model is probably more profitable, it's not something that I would enjoy, So it's like the trade-off between money and joy and like figuring that piece out. And so it's like, it's interesting because I'm having a conversation with my partner about it. I'm like, man, that's a great model, but it's not a model that we can like say like, hey, this is the blueprint to follow, because it doesn't pertain to everyone's strengths and weaknesses. Some people like naturally would enjoy that process while others wouldn't, So I think that's one of the main things, is really making sure you love what you're doing. I find that when entrepreneurs, like when they get burnt out in their business, it always comes down to that. Like, the first thing I ask them, and when they're burnt out, it's typically because they're doing a lot of shit that they hate to do. And that's why they get burnt out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'll share my screen, and this is not going to be super relevant for people listening, but if anyone that watches on video. So I'm doing the process now. I told this a second ago, right? Like, I'm writing down all the shit I do over the course of a day. I've got 45 items now, individual items, just like stuff that I'm doing. And then I have, do I like it? No, yes, or okay. Okay is like neutral. Because for me, a lot of the time, I don't not like something, but I like very few things. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of stuff I'm just kind of neutral on, like it doesn't fill me up and fire me up and energize me, and it doesn't like totally drag me down. I don't hate it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It kind of
it's one of those things. It's one of those things you can do, but it's not. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. So like, for example, right. So one of the concerning things for me personally is like 45 things, and I've got 8 that I like.
Right. So there's basically 33 things. My math sucks. No, 30.
Yeah, so
37
things. Yeah. 38 things.
37 things you don't like.
Well, that I'm either neutral on. I'm probably neutral on 2/3 of those. You know what I'm saying? So I probably dislike a third. I probably dislike 15. I'm neutral on 22 or 3. You know what I'm saying? And then I only like 8. So, that is such a huge fucking thing, though, what you're saying, though, right? Is like, do you fucking like, do you enjoy what you're doing? If you don't, almost no amount of money is enough, unless you're in like dire straits where like you just need to make fucking money. You know what I'm saying? Like you're just coming from a place where you don't have a lot of money and you just need it. You're supporting a family. You need to do whatever the fuck it takes, no matter how much you don't like it. But once you have the sort of essentials met and a comfortable lifestyle like we do, then it's just natural, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, to look at like, what the fuck do actually I like? How can I have my days be more enjoyable?
I think though that what you just said though is super, super important, because when you're starting off and you're building a company, like, you're bootstrapping, like, you're going to have to do shit that you don't like. And you're going to have to wear a lot of hats, and that's pretty normal. But I think the key is to know, like, you run these exercises, and you can do it once a quarter, to get clarity on like what's filling you up and what's not. And then having the awareness to know, right? Like even now for you, right? You now have this awareness that you don't like to do this stuff. Even though subconsciously you may have known, right? But now it's at the forefront of your mind. But it's still not like you're probably not going to be able to just tomorrow say, I'm not doing this anymore, right? Like there's going to be a phase, there's going to be a transition where it's like, okay, how do I now stop doing this? Like who can start doing these things, right? Versus myself, and finding that person if you don't already have them in the team, or figuring out a system or a process or a technology that can just eliminate it altogether. But it's a transition, it's a process, right? But then if you have that vision, you have something to work towards to, and keep you excited along the way. So even though while you hate doing what you might hate doing something that you're doing, but you have a vision of like, 3 to 6 more months or 8 more months or a year, whatever, like I'm not going to be doing that no more. You know?
Man. Yeah. I think that's such a good point, right? Is like that thing about making progress really fills me up, and I think for most people, like that'll keep you going. You know what I mean? Like even if you hate 100 out of 100 things, like fucking hate them, that you're doing right now in your business.
Right.
But if you find a way to remove 5 of those things, you eliminate them, or you hire somebody, and now you only hate 95 things.
It's still
you're making progress. You're gonna feel fucking good. You know what I'm saying? And then like it's just about progress. Yeah. So I think that's a really important point. Is just, can you make progress on this shit?
100%. There's a couple other pieces I would add. So like when we're talking about enjoying the process of in your entrepreneurial journey, doing what you love is important too, right? And I would even challenge you on that list that you're doing to perhaps even like say like, okay, like is fine, but then do you love it? Mm-hmm. Right? There's a different energy behind that, and then it's like, okay, well now, just getting to do the things that you like and you love is a huge step. But then eventually the next step is eliminating the things that you like and doing just strictly what you love, and organizing your whole entire life around that.
I mean, that seems so fucking difficult for me. And maybe it's just me personally, where like like we said, I like, let's say like 8 of the 45 or whatever things. Like I like fucking 20% or something. What do I love of those 8? Maybe 0. I mean, maybe 1. Maybe 1. You know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, I think I would need to have a whole different business personally, So I don't really know what the fuck you do about that. I guess you just work to have a different business.
Yeah, you build a different business. Exactly.
Yeah. So, it's a little bit discouraging or depressing or something. Well, not depressing, probably a little discouraging. I mean, to sort of have that put in your face to do an exercise like this, be like, I mean, I knew I wasn't.
Yeah, but you said that in the past, right? Like in our past episodes, you said that you're not fired up about this stuff,
Yeah, for sure. So really, I just need to get out of this fucking business really at some point, which kind of is, what I've been trying to do, by bringing in my friend and giving him ownership and just, and it's one of those things where like the interesting thing is like, and Trevor Mock at the Carrot Guy talked about this, that was interesting, is like to have more freedom, a lot of times you need a bigger business. So this is kind of different than what you're talking about, where you're making more money if it's smaller. So to me, like how I'm looking at it now, I think is like, you can be a small operator where you're like your own acquisition manager, and you have mainly like VAs with like one person, maybe that's what you're referring to. Correct. And you can net a really high margin, like 60 or 70% fucking net. And you make, $1 million only, which is good money, a top line, and you net 600, fucking sick, but you are your own employee. You know what I'm saying? Like you're the business owner, you're also your own fucking employee, which like you're saying, I think is like, that sounds pretty shitty, at the stage you're at, is to go back and like be your own employee.
Yeah. For me, that wouldn't I've thought about that, because I'm like, man, like, if we downsize the business, like we can probably make more money than what we're making today. But on the opposite side of the spectrum, I'm now having to do shit that I probably don't really want to do. I can do, and I don't hate it, but it doesn't fill me up. You know what I mean? Like, totally. I don't like it. I don't like it. Yeah.
Totally. Right. And it's like, and again, once you're sort of comfortable and you have your needs met, you've got decent savings in the bank. It's like, you get to be a little brattier, about this kind of stuff,
Sure.
Like a little choosier, where like, you don't have to do that, and you don't want to, and neither do I. You know what I mean? And we have the luxury to not have to do that.
To not have to do it. Like one thing So one thing too is I think, we're talking about, all right, so from like to love, and then there's a couple pieces. One, I see also like, so when it comes to enjoying the process, like for me, I have to fill my cup every day. And so like for me to fill my cup, like Gabe needs leisure time. And you could call that whatever you want, but like I need to have my leisure time, and I typically do it in the morning. And in that leisure time, I journal, I meditate, I read, I think, I may reach out to people to just say hi and check up on them, and like people that I actually want to build relationships with, right? But that's like my time. It's like my sacred little window that I just don't negotiate with anyone. Like you cannot mess with that time, because that's like my sacred time. And it's still somewhat work related, because as a CEO, like reading and growing yourself is like probably the most important thing, because without it, and so a lot of people don't like kind of correlate that with work. But for me, it's kind of work in a way. And I do that Monday through Sunday. And like, it's almost like if every day is a vacation, honestly. Like it feels so good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you're one of the best people that I've met in this business at enjoying the journey, because you do that, because you intentionally and in a very disciplined way structure your day so you can dick around in the morning. I mean, I'd say dick around, like, kind of jokingly.
But it is like I'm dicking around. Like you can't call me or contact me because I'm not going to answer unless I want to answer, right? And if I know if a friend's calling me, it's like, hey, you know what? I actually do want to talk to him. Like let's chat, let's chat, whatever. But I'm reading and meditating and listening to music, exercising, whatever, going to the sauna, swimming in the pool, like whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's all like fucking self-care too, you know what I'm saying? Like that's one of the big things that I struggle with, and probably a lot of people, on this journey struggle with, especially if you're a male. Women tend to be better at this, but not always, of course, is like fucking taking care of yourself, you know what I mean? Like treating yourself, like being kind, being gentle with yourself, you know what I'm saying?
I find women are worse at it, a lot worse.
Oh, never mind though. Just what I know.
Men are much better at it, primarily because we're more selfish, right? Where like true. Women tend to care more about others more than they do themselves, and they tend to put others' interests. Maybe if you're a single woman, I don't know how that applies, but just my experience has been living married with women for that long. Like they just tend to care about everyone else before themselves.
I see. Yeah. Well, so you could very well be right, but just back to the other part of this though, is like I said, and would you say that's what you love the most? Like, so let me ask you this. So what shit do you love? You know what I'm saying? Cause like me, and part of what I've been working on personally is accessing love in general. You know what I'm like? I thought love was bullshit really like a couple of years ago, just in general. I thought it was just kind of like just chemicals floating around, like wasn't a thing, So right. This is all sort of like new territory for me. So when you say like things that you love, your tasks, I'm like, fuck man, I didn't even know what love was 2 years ago. How the fuck am I going to love something I'm actually like doing business wise? But anyways, so what kind of like, what's the shit that you love? Maybe you'll give me some ideas for stuff that I would like.
Here's what I love. I love when an acquisition agent brings me a really good deal that they need my creative expertise on. I fucking love that.
Cool.
I've noticed like also like big multifamily deals and stuff like that. Like when it comes to like now putting my Buffett hat on, right? And just thinking as an investor and like, okay, this isn't a transaction. Like this is something that we actually want to keep and own in a long-term asset play. I love underwriting that stuff. Like I can sit on a desk for hours just reading financial statements and like going through the numbers on a deal. Like I thoroughly enjoy that shit. You know what I mean?
Cool. Yeah. Those are good examples. And actually, you kind of prompted me a little bit. So the shit that I love actually is helping people. I mean, who would have known? I'm just this big softy inside, but that's like what, you know what I mean? Like, but when I'm coaching or having a conversation with somebody and like, I can really help them from my strengths, which is like operationally, typically like as process related things or KPIs, things like that, like metrics. Like when I fucking help people and then like 2 weeks later, a week later, like, man, like that was great. Like I did what you said, like super helpful, like was really like totally improved what I was doing. That's what I fucking love. Yeah, that's what I love.
Right.
So
Same
I guess
thing.
I know.
I love doing this podcast as an example, right? So like this podcast doesn't make us any money. There's really not a lot of benefits to this podcast for us at this stage in the game. And whether there ever will be benefits in the future other than goodwill, I don't know. But I thoroughly love the process of it. Like it lights me up. It's something that I look forward to. I never like, and that's a thing for me too. Like we're doing a training program now with the sales association that's like developing our team. And the last 2 meetings I've noticed myself like resisting to go.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I feel that, I'm like, all right, there's something here. Like this could be beneficial for like, even the training could be great, but like it has nothing to do with the training. It has to do with me. And I don't fucking like doing it. And that's a problem. Like it lowers my energy. It doesn't give me energy, you know?
That's great. Yeah. That's a great rule of thumb for people, you know, is like, do you look forward to it? Do you dread it, or are you neutral on it? And then the other one that I like a lot that you mentioned too is, do you feel more energized afterwards?
Afterwards,
the same, or do you feel more drained? You know, like if you feel energized and you look forward to it, I mean, fuck, I feel like that's how maybe if you don't use words like love more as easily, maybe, you know, like I don't, like that's how you know you love it is if it energizes you and if you look forward to it. It's probably
100%. There's a book I was just reading now called Who Not How by I forgot the author's name, but
I read that. Fucking good.
You read it? So I love the part when they talk about people in particular, where Dan was like, in reference to his wife, he's like, I don't want to work on a relationship. I want a relationship that works, you know? And I love that quote. I like highlighted like extra.
Yeah.
And there was another one where he talks about where I think it was interviewing Joe Polish, and he was like, my criteria for relationship is like, I have to really enjoy talking to this person. I have to be inspired around this person. There has to be value being exchanged around this person. And like, ultimately the person just has to make me feel really good. He's like, if it doesn't meet those criteria that he had set, he's like, there's no relationship. There's nothing there. And he moves on. And I'm like, that's a good rule for employees. Cause how many times do we keep employees around? And even though they're good at their job and they do what they have to do and they might do it well, you don't fucking like them for whatever reason. You know what I mean? And they suck your energy. And that's a challenge for a business owner, you know, because now it's like, okay, well, person is good in the business. They do well, but I don't like spending time with them, or I dread having to hop on the phone to fucking hold them accountable because they didn't follow through with this or whatever, you know?
Yeah. And I guess arguably if that's the case, it probably isn't a cultural fit. You know what I mean? Because as a small business owner, our culture basically is just our word for a reflection of our values in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? Like our personal 100%. Set of values. And so if the person we enjoy interacting with them, like they're probably not meeting, I would venture to say that probably, you know, not meeting one or more of those values.
100%.
So yeah.
100%. Yeah. So we talked about doing what you love more. And you know, sometimes, like you said, like sometimes it's hard to figure out what you love, but it's easy. It's easy to figure out what you don't love. And exactly. So it's better. It's easier to just say no and get all that stuff out the way. And eventually the things that you do will it'll just lead to what you love because there's nothing left. You keep eliminating all shit. So that's all that's left, you know?
And and the crazy thing too is like, I feel like at least for me and from what I've heard from some others, though I don't know this for sure, is that for a lot of us, it's a really fucking small amount of things that we actually love. Like for me, it's like helping people for using my business, you know, knowledge and like operations. And like, I like deep conversations. This podcast I like quite a bit, you know, because we get like deep on stuff and have meaningful conversations. Like, I think it's probably maybe a couple other things. There's probably only 2 or 3, 4 things, you know what I'm saying, that I actually really want to be, and that's fucking it.
It is. And so it's a goal, like to figure out how to organize your life around just doing those things and supporting your life by doing those things.
Yeah.
And then the money becomes, I mean, like, you know, the money's obviously important, but you probably would make a way more money doing that just because you're going to be so good at it. And like your love for it's going to outshine anyone else that wants to go through. Totally. So I'm reading this book right now called Essentialism, which is a great book. You would love it, by the way. I would add it to your book list. It's a really, really good book. And where was I going with it? But, oh man, I lost my train of thought. We're
things
talking about
you love, things that you like. You were saying about, we're talking about how like you basically are eliminating a shitload of things where you're just left with a handful of things you actually truly love.
Yeah. So what I did on Essentialism was I made a list of like what is truly essential in my business. Because like one of the frameworks of Essentialism that I really like is that basically the premise is that most of the shit we do is not important, right? There's only a few important things that we do and everything else is non-essential. So I was like, I started doing that exercise. I'm like, man, what's really like essential in my business? Like what really fucking matters? And it came down to just a few simple things. And it opened my eyes to realize that I'm not doing anywhere near as much as I should be doing of it. But it basically came down to keeping the team happy, you know, making sure that they have the resources and the training necessary to succeed. Not me giving the resources or doing the training, just making sure that they have them, right? Was it like a big distinguishing factor? Or some of the other things, like just making sure we as a team have fun, making sure the culture is tight and like everyone is enjoying working with each other like everyone has, you know, good, meaningful relationships with their peers in their business, making sure the teams, because we work from home and something that I've been wanting to do for a while and I keep pushing it to the back burner, but is making sure that they are in productive working environments. Like I have no idea what their house situations are like. Like I don't know the type of environment they work in. I don't know if they have good lighting, if they have good computers, if they got like a nice desk, you know what I mean? Like all these things that really affect productivity in a place that inspires them to actually like work, you know? Cause I know for me, like if I have a shitty environment, I don't want to work there. Like I need something that like inspires me to work and motivates me to work. You know what I mean? So it's really all team oriented, right? Kind of similar to you, like helping people. And it just like made me realize that I'm like, obviously attracting and hiring the right people, I think also was one of those essential things as well for me. And like, it just came down to like, man, like I'm not doing nearly as much of this as I should. And this is the stuff that lights me up and excites me. So it's kind of even like, what a coincidence that the stuff that's most essential is the stuff that actually I really love to do. You know?
Yeah, that is nice, right? Because it could be that the stuff that lights you up is like, you know, like underwater basket weaving or something, you know, where it's just like really difficult to make a living doing that or make money doing that. But it's nice if like the shit you love actually can align with like what's really going to drive your business forward. And like you're saying, it sounds like it comes down to, and for me, I look at my role the same way, to fucking hiring the right hiring people, and then how you're managing those people, like how you're motivating them, how their work environment is, like you're saying, do they have fun coming to work? Do they feel like that you care about them as a person outside of just what they can do for you? All that stuff. Yeah. One of the things we did is everybody that needed a new computer, that had like, we found out like just how old people's computers were or something, and then just bought everybody that needed a new computer. And then
that's so awesome. See, that's something that I'm going to do now. If I go to their offices and I see that like they have shit computers, I'm just going to buy them a better computer.
And another no-brainer thing that we did was just a Veridesk. So anyone that wanted a standing desk, we just sent an email out. Whoever wants a standing desk or like ergonomic mouse or chair or something, just buy it on Amazon and we'll just pay for it. So
that's
just
awesome.
To your point. Yeah.
That we did. That we've sent out to everyone. We've gotten standing desks for everybody and stuff like that. You know, one thing that we've done too, we're just talking about culture. Like I think we talked about it in another previous episode, but I pretty much told the team like, hey, like, since our purpose, right, is to inspire others to experience happiness and freedom and for our business, that's like what motivates us to build this company. And we're like, hey, you know what, like, how do we expand that to the team? And for us, it was like, hey, like, you know what, we told the team, like, you don't need to like, you can take as much vacation time as you want. Like,
we did that too.
You just if you need a vacation, just take it off. Like, but you don't have to get approval. We had like an app before where they had to send it in and there was like an approval process. I'm like, you know what? Fuck that. Like if you want time off, send it in just so we can log it, but it's not approved based or anything like that. Like you just go, you know?
And that's what we do too. Yeah. Like I heard some companies in Silicon Valley doing that. And so, yeah, I that was our unspoken policy, but I made it official as well, like a month ago, unlimited vacation. And the only requirement was, you have to make sure that your shit, you know, your job is somehow covered. So someone else in the team can cover it, like you cover for the one person when they're out, they cover for you or something. So you have to sort of be an adult and make sure your responsibilities are handled. But once that's the case, you're can take as much off as you want and just make sure you're hitting your goals otherwise.
For sure. I didn't even say that. I didn't even go to that part, which I probably should. But I told him that same thing. I said, look, all I care about is that you hit your goals. Like, you still have goals to meet. So if you want to take off 3 months in the year and you're not hitting your goals, you're probably going to lose your job.
Right.
But if you're taking off 3 months of the year and you're crushing it still, which I don't see how that might be possible, but you never know, then it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
And I think back to our topic, I think this is part of how you and I get joy along the journey of running these businesses, is by not having to micromanage our people.
Absolutely.
Through treating them, like adults, through giving them freedom and autonomy, and trying to give them like a really good experience, working, like really good work experience. I think that definitely is part of what fills me up and helps me enjoy along the way,
100%. And the other thing too is just the relationships, like with the team. Like I really savor those relationships, like we're going to do a Christmas dinner now when we go out next Monday. We're going to do a Christmas dinner, and like that lights me up. I love meeting with the team to go just kick it and have fun. And like, I really look forward to those things,
Yeah, me too, man. We actually just did that. We did our end of year thing like a week ago. And literally some people have been working for me for, I don't know, a year and a half or 2 years. I'd never met them because we've been virtual, the entire time. But so we all got together, we went to like Fogo de Chao.
You've never met him in person, but you've
in person.
Yeah.
They went to like Fogo de Chao for dinner, and then just like went back to the hotel. We're just like drinking in the lobby. Like
That's
came up
awesome,
with this
bro.
like ridiculous bet where my acquisition manager and my lead manager are going to do like a 3-point competition, and then whoever loses has to dye their hair blonde. So it's like just really like stupid shit, but like we were just like laughing our asses off and really just like having fun.
It brings joy.
Yeah.
This is funny. There's few companies or business owners that I know that do that. Like, they'll basically go and have a drink at the bar with a prospective employee just to see if they enjoyed having that drink with that person, and see what stuff comes out of their mouth while they're having the drink too. I
like that. Yeah. I've heard of something similar where it's as part of the interview process, they get lunch, not with like the hiring manager, but like with a colleague, but the colleague is sort of like kind of evaluating, and like when the person is just like chill and their guard is down and they're not like in interview mode because they're just like eating a lunch with just like a random person in the company, right. You actually get a feel for what they're actually like, because that is right. a challenge for sure in hiring, is the front people are putting up their very best fucking impression, you know what I'm saying? Like
their best version of themselves. Yeah.
And so to be able to break through that in just 2, 3, 4, 5 interactions you have with them while you're interviewing them is difficult.
Well, one thing I've noticed too is like there in that book Who Not How, they talk about that with Derek Sivers, where he says like any decision that I'm going to make in my life, if it's not a fuck yeah, then it's a no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God, I love that, and I'm like, I'm going to apply that even to employees. Like if even when I'm hiring someone, like if it's not an absolute wow from the get go, like it's just a no. Like there's nothing to think about.
That's powerful. Yeah, I've been kind of thinking along similar lines recently. Like because there have been people I've hired that I've been excited about, where like you get off the interview, you're like, holy shit, man, this person's fucking awesome, and
right.
You're like, you're
going to change my business.
Yeah, you're stoked about them. And then I've hired so many people where I'm like, yeah, I think they're probably pretty good, like I think they'd stick around, you know what I mean? Like if I were to like, why the fuck am I hiring those people? I should just wait until, like, at least be super stoked about them. You may still be wrong, you know what I'm saying? But at least there's the chance that you're going to be really right on somebody.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah. I have a new hire that I'm bringing on right now that I am fucking stoked about. I'm overpaying her. Honestly, I was looking to pay someone half of what she wanted. But she fucking wowed me so much that I'm like, dude, when you find the level 10, you just have to figure it out. And like in my mind, she's a level 10. So I'm just like, dude, I got to figure it out. We'll figure it out on the back end some way, shape or form,
I think it's money well spent. I mean, I had a similar thing where I was hiring an assistant. I wanted to pay, 55 or 60 grand. I ended up paying like 80 for kind of a similar, kind of thing. Cause I just I was just really impressed, and it was a good call. Cause I mean, as we've talked about before, and as I know, is like, if the person's even just, like, a good person is not like 10% better. A good person can be like 3 times as good
100%
as like a mediocre person. You know what I'm saying? So it's just worth it.
And just the joy, right? Like back to the joy thing. Like if it makes your work so much more joyful, like fuck it,
What's the money for if it's not to make you happy? You know what I mean? Like
100%.
So
100%.
that's good. So we're, obviously as always, we're sort of like, bouncing around like a motherfucker, but, some good stuff though, like it sounds like part of a lot of the joy for us is working with people that we like, is
meaningful relationships.
Yeah. It is also like having the ability to kind of whittle away things that we don't like to really hone in on just a handful of things that we do truly enjoy and that do fill us up, and being able to over time get rid of the rest.
Right. Yeah. Leisure time I think is big for me too.
Yeah,
leisure
having that self-care time.
Leisure time, and then time for just time for fun and recovery and play too. Like just making time to either play with the team, play with friends, and that's something I struggle with even. And I think all entrepreneurs struggle with the fun aspect, because we're so ingrained that we're so consumed by our work. Our work becomes our life in a sense, Definitely.
Yeah. And are you good at having fun with the team? You know what I mean? Like, so like on team meetings, or check-ins?
I'm horrible at that.
Okay. Yeah. See, that's another thing that I'm working on. And that's another good, like, joy along the journey thing, that like, I don't have to be so fucking serious all the time. Like, so we've started just fucking like joking around more, in our meetings,
right?
Joking around more, just being sillier, whatever your sense of humor, my sense of humor, just having more fun. And
we do joke around a little bit in our daily huddles and stuff, but
okay.
We're not like Pardo or some of our friends that like, or even Robson was like doing splits and shit the other day in his meeting. Like, we're not doing any crazy shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I feel like that's something that I can continue to work on, is like just having more fun in my team interactions, because what I also feel afterwards is when I do that, guess what? Like, I'm more filled up and energized after that than when I've been serious the whole time and trying to like just pound, drill in accountability.
And what a lot of people don't realize, I think, and even for me, is that when you're filled up, when you're having fun, when you're light, like, you think better, you make better decisions, you treat people better, you handle stress better. Like, you get better creative ideas that can make you more money. All those things happen when you're in that joy mode versus when you're like stressed, serious, like it just, but yeah, one of the things that we're doing, I'm going to do next quarter, I told my assistant to mark it as a priority for the fun thing, is I want to have a fun event once a month for next quarter. So 3 fun events once a month, whatever it could be, like, I don't know, going to the park, going to the beach, playing paintball, doing what do you call those rooms? The break rooms, I forgot what those things are called.
Oh yeah. I forgot, but yeah.
Yeah. We've done a bunch of stuff like that in the past, but like, it's just sporadic and it happens once in a blue moon. So I just want to be more intentional of making sure it happens all the time. And I got a good idea from Daniel Marcos, who's actually going to be on our podcast on the next episode. He does something with this team that I thought was brilliant, is he gives a stipend in the company to anyone who wants to go out with other people in the team on the weekend. So like, if other people in the team want to go out and grab a movie or go to a sporting event or whatever, but if they do it with other people in the company, then the company will help facilitate that.
That's great.
Monetary wise, so that they build that connection. Because he's like, people don't leave companies, they leave families, and he's like, when it's time to leave a family, it's a much harder decision. And I'm like, man, that's awesome.
That's another great tip. Yeah, good shit, man. Well, I know we're up at time, but I think we in a roundabout way hit on some good, like, joy along the journey stuff. Yeah,
for sure.
Cool.
For sure.
All right, man. Yeah, enjoyable as always. Thanks, everybody.
All right, guys. Take care. Peace.
See ya.